If you want to know what I think, I won't give that up for free. Put a penny in the crusher, on the back's my memory. I'll hold real still, you take the shot, but I don't want to see whether it turns out or not, it's all the same to me. If you want to know how I feel, put me down and walk away. My hands are already bloodied here in bed. I think I'll stay. In dreams I face dread most, mundane when walking down the street. My pounding heart shocks me awake the moment our eyes meet.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Starting off with a sip of tea. Tea, Earl Grey, hot. All right. Whew. All right, let's go. Welcome to the second episode of Us at Our Worst, an unvarnished caregiver's account of cancer and dementia care during the peak of the COVID pandemic. First off, I want to thank my son for the intro and outro music. And here's a little intro. Each episode of Us at Our Worst will be available as a podcast for listening and on YouTube for viewing. Though I will be reading directly from the as of yet unpublished book, I will also be adding in commentary and sidebars to help tell the story. Think of these talks like bonus episodes on a DVD, if you are old enough to have ever used DVDs, that is. I also need to add a disclaimer. My guess is that Us at Our Worst isn't like anything you have heard before. It's not a fun story. It's a nonfiction account that covers topics such as terminal cancer, terminal dementia, and specifically what I believe was behavioral variant frontotemporal dementia. It includes physical and emotional abuse discussion. There's a ton of swearing, tales of acute depression, child abuse, downright madness, generational family trauma, and let's also throw in some drug addiction. So, you have a front row seat to a grim reality, my friends. Why am I going through with this at all? Well, I don't think people should have to go through such things alone. Caregiving is lonely. It doesn't always have to be, perhaps, but it certainly was for me. My thought is that even if one person out there finds comfort in knowing that I went through and survived all the things in this book, and it's the same kind of thing that they're going through, then that is my why. That's my reason for doing this. It's to give them hope, or at least understanding that they're not the only ones that are going through it. Are you still listening? Interesting. Okay. Well then, here we go. Us at Our Worst, Episode 2. Recorded, technically, on Wednesday, May 28th. I wasn't going to record it on the 27th, but it's 12:04 a.m., so 28th it is. All right, a little more sip of tea here. All right, I left off the last episode at the beginning of Chapter 1, which is page 8 of the book. And I'm going to start off with a sidebar before I dive into Chapter 1. And see, this is good. It's good that I'm reading this out loud before sending it to a publisher for consideration, because it helps me uncover things that should be here in the manuscript. And here's one of those things that I'm going to add in, but I'm going to say it out loud right now, and that is about roles, that's R-O-L-E-S, and guilt and blame. So when I was writing these entries as journal entries, I was recording precisely how I felt. All the entries in here are survival writing. It tells the story, but only from the perspective of someone, me, who was angry, bitter, tired, beat down. So I recorded the actions and behaviors in journal entries of those around me as they actually happened, but it's only through the cooling period of the last 5 years since Mom died that I've learned to see that we all had our roles to play. So you will hear me speak about my brother, my father, my mother in ways that are not favorable. The accounts are accurate, but I now see their actions and my actions almost like those assigned by a playwright. We were in a play, and we all had our parts to play. If you spend any time around people who are involved with caretaking for a loved one, usually in the scenario where it's an older parent, you will notice that there are archetypes and characters that seem to arise in nearly every family when one of their own is nearing the end of their lives. You will see stereotyped reactions that are so predictable, it's worth putting down good money on a bet. You're going to have the one sibling that just disappears and doesn't seem to care. You're likely going to have the other spouse that isn't as emotive or compassionate as you think they should be. You're going to have a parent who's possibly dying of a terminal illness who insists that tomorrow they're going to get up and walk around and start hiking the Appalachian Trail. Like, what I learned is these are very predictable stereotypes. Almost every other family I interacted with that had a loved one who was experiencing terminal illness or dementia, they almost all had these different characters in their play. I had the same. And so I've shifted over my perspective over the years from really being angry with my father, angry with my brother, angry with my mother, to just seeing like we all had our part to play. We are who we are. And I believe fervently that everyone does their best at any given time. Even though their best may not be what I wanted, I do realize now that it was their best in their own way. And I just want to add that disclaimer in here. So you'll hear a lot of hate and frustration in my writing towards others. You will. I'm not going to lie. I felt really angry, really fucking angry at other people's behaviors as I was trying to be like I was trying to be the hub of the wheel. And I was pretty frustrated with what the spokes were doing. But try to do what I've done and try to remember that my anger, like their behavior, was part of the archetypal dysfunction of people who didn't have the proper support or the understanding of how to talk about dementia or terminal cancer or death. Remember that we live in a society that never fucking talks about this stuff. And so when a family member suddenly is dying or is ramping up with dementia symptoms, I don't get mad at people anymore when they don't handle it in ways that I think they should. Now my reaction is more like, well, of course they don't know what to do. Oh, well, that's my disclaimer. So, glad I added that. Here we go. Chapter 1, A Sudden Beginning. Now, this little blurb that I'm about to read, I did write this not as a journal entry. I added this into the book just to I felt it needed a little bit of explanation before I jumped right into the first journal entry. So, the setting. I was racing in and out of my rented apartment in Carborough, North Carolina, having just driven back down from Virginia. I was running items up the steps and into my minivan. It was warm. I was in a state of disbelief that this was becoming my life. I only had a small window of time to pack up and deliver all of my things to a waiting storage unit up in Virginia. I was somehow leaving this community that I had lived in and built relationships in for 16 years. I was running my own successful video editing and filmmaking, social media management company. I was leaving that all behind. I'd been given a super low rate on this amazing creekside apartment by the homeowner because he had loved the work that I had done on a movie so much about saving the area's, preserving the area's forests. That's why he gave me this crazy low rate. So I had the kind of life in that community where if I left the house for an hour and went into town, I would see at least 5 people that I knew before I got back. And somehow, here I was, packing it all up. I was so angry that it worried me. I could only start to see the shape of things up ahead. Like when you were driving down the highway and you see the police lights and the ambulances gathered off in the distance in front of you, you know something bad is up ahead. It was this day that I realized that my life was a car on fire on the interstate. I knew that if I didn't find an outlet, I wouldn't make it. So I grabbed my laptop, I sat down in the middle of my beloved soon-to-be vacated apartment, and I wrote like my sanity depended upon it. So here we go. Monday, October 21st, 2019, 3 p.m., location, my apartment, Carborough, North Carolina. I just finished cleaning the dishes here at the house. It's 3 p.m., 24 hours to go before I head to Charlottesville, Virginia. I won't be back here for a while, and that brings me to pondering how to pay rent. I don't anticipate being able to work much while suddenly living in an entirely different state. All my work is here where I live. Duh, where else would it be? I've been turning away clients left and right for the last few months while driving back and forth to my new parents' home in Forest, Virginia. But moving to a new place, Charlottesville, Virginia, without really moving is new. It's like a 6-week hiatus from work, but one where I don't even know if I'm ever coming back to Carborough, back to where I actually live. I make documentary films and short movies about protecting the environment. I work with nonprofits. I live a very low-impact life with very little overhead costs. Which brings me to the main point, my brother. When we agreed years ago that I would be the feet on the ground taking care of mom and dad when the time would come, and that Joe would be the money to make it all possible, I believed those promises were ironclad. I recently discovered that his are not. All day long, all I'm thinking about is what will happen to my income, and the fact that neither my parents nor my brother have really considered this. If I am unable to work for 6 weeks, which is the duration of mom's chemo and radiation, and likely much longer than that, because my mom will need continual care after that, exactly what the fuck am I going to do for money? How am I to care for my parents and have a job in a town that none of us actually even live in? Sidebar here. So my parents had moved to Forest, Virginia, which is about, if memory serves me correctly, about a 2.5 hour drive north of Carborough, North Carolina, right? But as soon as my parents were moving into that house, then we found out mom had to get stage 4 cancer treatment in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is like another hour and 15 minutes or so. Some people say it's 45 minutes. I never did the drive faster than an hour and 15. But so basically, we rented a small house. I helped them rent a small house in Charlottesville, Virginia, so mom wouldn't have to drive back and forth to Forest during her treatment. So it's weird. So like they only just moved into this house in Forest, and then we leapfrogged to get temporary housing in Charlottesville, and that's where I'm on the way to. So it's just all fucking weird. Anyway, back to the story. So yeah, how am I to care for my parents and have a job in a town that none of us actually live in? Because nobody hires someone for just 6 weeks on purpose. And I can't work anyway because the whole fucking point is that I'm there to look after my parents who need help. My brother originally agreed to help me out, but he has since gone back on that. He says he is broke and that he doesn't have the money now. My brother is the kind of broke that wealthy people get when they live in a $500,000 house and they have a motherfucking BMW in their pristinely clean 2-car garage. He now says that my parents need to pay for whatever I need. And my parents, they don't want to share their financial information with me, so I have no way to assess what is what. They are retired. I know they're not poor, but will the cost of 6 weeks of treatment wipe them out financially? I have no idea. Neither do they. Are we looking at the need to hire in-home care once the treatment is done? This can easily run into upwards of $5,000 a month. That's how much skilled nursing at home costs. And I am the only one asking my family members to ponder these numbers, but nobody wants to discuss it. So I am floating in a complete financial limbo. Here's the truth about my nuclear family's ability to function in a crisis situation. It's dependent upon how quickly they can distract themselves or look the other way. They don't want to know. They don't want to deal. They don't want to ponder. They just want life to be the way, They just want life to be the way they want it to be. And so they act like it is that way. My parents and brother are the last people I'd pick for the all-star cancer support squad. Is the next day, October 22nd, Tuesday, 2019. Chapter header for this little one is called, Is This Really Real? Like, for real? Location, my apartment, North Carolina, Carborough. So, I'm all packed. Well, almost. I'm still having a hard time grasping this. On my way to the car, I'm like, am I really doing this? Walking back to the house from the car, I'm like, is this really necessary? And then back to the car again. Am I really leaving tomorrow? And then on my way back down the steps to the house, will I ever live here again? I call my mom up after reading up on cisplatin. Cisplatin is the chemo drug the doctors have chosen for my mom's particular kind of cancer. I Googled it over dinner at my favorite restaurant here in Carborough. So, cisplatin. Yeah, it's shitty. It's poison for DNA. It keeps DNA from repairing itself. It's a body destroyer. I feel sick reading it. What is this going to be like for my already exhausted 75-year-old mom? She starts crying when I talk to her during the call. She's afraid. We both have a strong sense that she may not make it. It's palpable. We don't have to say it. We just feel it. But she does say it in her own way. She's crying, and she feels so guilty that I'm leaving my life to come take care of her. I'm like, Mom, this isn't a distraction from the rest of my life. This is what is next on the path to the rest of my life. It's just what's next for me. That's all. I try to talk her down. And I want to offer a sidebar here. Like, yes, that's what I told my mom, but I'll say 50% of me felt that way. And the other 50% of me felt like I totally agreed with her. I didn't want to give up my whole life, to be blunt, and go take care of her. I'd worked really, really hard to build my business, to build my community. And I could feel deep down I was going to lose all of it. And yes, all of my income. But I never told my mom that. So back to the story. Oh, wait, no, I say it here. Duh, sorry. This is in the next sentence, what I just said, so I didn't need the sidebar, but I'll leave it in. So I'll go back one sentence to recap. I wish she didn't feel so badly about how her illness is affecting my life. And yes, I do feel angry. There we go. I do feel angry about how much it is changing my life, but I'm not telling her that. And I'm only angry because I am so desperately in need of respite myself. If I just had a break or an interval between taking care of kids and taking care of my parents, then I swear I would see this all so differently. But I am bargaining with life from a place of sheer exhaustion. I am starting a new marathon after running 26 miles. She seems okay after we talk. We speak frankly about cisplatin and the side effects. We agree wholeheartedly that doctors suck. Because not one damn doctor out of so many so far that we have met have told us anything about the side effects of chemoradiation. Their biggest contribution to us mentally preparing so far, here's air quotes, You may feel nauseous. That's it. That's all we've got. Today, Mom told me that the chemo radiation to begin on Wednesday will be radiation only, no chemo. I ask why. She says, because today the radiologist assistant called Mom and told her that the order for chemo that was meant to happen before her radiation, in sidebar here, so normally you get the chemo and then it helps increase the impact of the radiation. Okay. So anyway, she goes, the order for the chemo that was meant to happen before the radiation on day 1 was never submitted. It's been 4 days. And these people at a cancer clinic who don't have cancer but are dealing with people who are worried about dying somehow can't get their fucking act together to submit a goddamn piece of paper. This is not confidence building so far. My mom had calmed down. The radiation only will be Wednesday through Friday. Then finally, next week, chemo and radiation will start with radiation on Monday. But this illustrates why I am going. I can goddamn guarantee you that if I had been there by the phone, my mom would be getting chemo on time. I also wouldn't have trusted before today that everything was set. I would have called to make sure. I'm not normal when it comes to details and organization. I can act casual. I may seem relaxed, but I have an intense sense of when things are not being done right or as agreed upon, and I plain old don't stop until things are set right. I'm a bulldog. My parents, though, they don't fight stuff. If someone changes something on them, they just kind of go along with it. I'm the opposite. And so we have to remember that everything in medicine is called practicing medicine for a reason. People don't take that literally, but I do. Every doctor in every moment is not always at their best. They're practicing the art of medicine. They're not practicing the perfected art of medicine. None of them are beyond reproach, and all of them are tired. So assume it's your job to make sure that they do their job. Right now, what I know is that Mom's lead doctor isn't talking to the person who is scheduling the radiation. The people ordering the chemo aren't talking to the scheduler or the radiologist. None of these people are talking to the gynecological oncologist in charge of Mom's case. So what you have to be to make shit happen is the one putting all the pieces together. Or, in a friendlier way, you become a patient advocate. That's the more polite term. This, at least, is the fundamental reason I am going. This is where my particular manner of being fits like a glove. Next chapter. Reporting for duty. Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019. Time of writing, 9 p.m. Location, my parents' house in Forest, Virginia. The setting. I had driven from Carborough, North Carolina to Forest, Virginia, where I would spend one night before we all headed up to the temporary rented house in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia. And I also just want to do a sidebar here. Whenever I say the setting, that's something that I added in for contextual clarity in the entries when I was going back and editing, because I had to take out so many entries to make the book short enough that sometimes I had to throw in some context. So that's the setting. So I had just driven from Carborough, North Carolina up to Forest, Virginia, drop off all my shit. We all spend one night together. And then the next day we all go up to Charlottesville to get ready for Mom's treatment. Okay, this is the beginning of the thing, written at 9 p.m. Wednesday night. So here I am now in Mysteryville. My parents can be heard talking through their bedroom door. I'm done with my 100 push-ups for the day. I didn't go trail running or rollerblading, but I at least ate very healthy. Or healthily. Well, except for some terrible snack food snagged from a gas station to help me stay awake. I was so sleepy on the drive up. Only 2.5 hours, but still, it was a struggle to stay awake. I had meetings with clients from my video editing company literally right up until I left town in Carborough, North Carolina at around 4 p.m. Then I got here at about 7. So, I want to talk about, why does my mom have cancer? I'll say this. We always knew Mom was eating for trouble. This was always going to end this way. This isn't a tragedy. This isn't out of left field. My mother has eaten garbage daily for over 50 years. We have argued about it. We have fought over it. As a teenager, I'd yell at her, watching her add sugar to her glasses of Coca-Cola, pouring it in, and I mean that literally. Later in life, when my kids were older, they would even get on my mom's case. My mom was handed a life that made her have to run from her feelings. Her childhood left her feeling not good enough, no matter what she did in this life, and she did a lot. It never got quite enough inside of her to not have to need that sugar. No matter how many UTIs my mom got, no matter how many docs told her that if she changed her diet and stopped taking antibiotics every month like candy, that it would change her life and her health for the better, no matter how many times that happened, she still couldn't kick it. And I'm going to do a little sidebar here. This is something I need to add into the book, I'm just realizing, is that my mom literally had a UTI practically every month that I knew this woman. So she was always on antibiotics. I will get into this deeper in the book, you'll learn, but this is just sort of not a prequel, a prefacing, foreshadowing. That's it. It's foreshadowing to say my mom takes antibiotics like candy. My mom takes all pills like candy, and we'll get into that later. Sidebar over. Here's what I don't like. I don't like it that my mom did her best and that it still comes to this. A doctor is going to be aiming radiation at her body. A doctor is going to be putting poison in her veins to save her, but what is he saving her from? From the way that she has tried to survive her suffering. So what I'm really doing is just trying to create space for my mom. I am not here to save her. She doesn't want saving. I am not here to fight for her to live for as long as she possibly can. I am here because she shouldn't go through it alone. And actually, yeah, I'm going to stop it there for today. The next chapter, if you want a little sneak peek, is the beginning of radiation. And I'm starting that story off from the rented house in Charlottesville. And yeah, that's kind of the beginning of the true craziness, the absolute batshit craziness. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's a wrap on Us at Our Worst, episode 2. And I want to mention, as you were listening to all these stories, to just remember, these are my experiences. They're just mine. Not all cancers, not all dementias produce the same kind of behaviors that you are hearing about. And before we go, I want to talk about the Project logo cover art. It's made by my youngest child, Zoe. And yes, that is an actual photo of me climbing out of my mom's actual pillbox from 2020, thanks to the magic of Photoshop. And the intro and outro song that you can't stop humming out loud, well, that's an original tune composed and sung by my eldest kid, Quinn. He recorded this when he was helping me take care of my mom, and he even played it for her once. Last but not least, I had that track sound mastered by Jay Siebold at sieboldsound.com. If you ever need sound mastering and mixing work, be sure to look him up at sieboldsound.com, and I have him linked in the show notes. On YouTube, I've also posted a standalone video of just that song, in case you want to play it on repeat. Sometimes I do. And finally, if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to hear it as a podcast, then Google us at Our Worst in your favorite podcast app. That might not be correct to say Google us. You know what I mean. Or just check the video description for this video here on YouTube for a link to the podcast. Conversely, if you're on the podcast and you want to find the YouTube channel, just search for us at Our Worst Podcast. And the link to it is in the show tones for the podcast as well. That's all sort of confusing, isn't it? Anyway, all I can say is it's a little extra work trying to figure out how to make sure all the podcast listeners know that it's also a video and that all the video watchers know that it's also a podcast. I think the easiest solution is just watch it on YouTube, turn your screen off and just listen to it like it's a podcast. Anyway, that's it. Here's the outro music.
If you want to know what I think, I won't give that up for free. Put a penny in the crusher, on the back's my memory. I'll hold real still, you take the shot, but I don't want to see whether it turns out or not. It's all the same to me. If you want to know how I feel, put me down and walk away. My hands are already bloodied here in bed. I think I'll stay. In dreams I face dread most mundane when walking down the street. My pounding heart shocks me awake the moment our eyes meet.